to talk about here is plantain. And this is a nice spot because we have the two variety of plantains. There is the broadleaf plantain here and the narrowleaf plantain here. And you can see that they'll both have these prominent veins underneath of them. And of course, anyone like to guess? Broadleaf, narrowleaf? Narrow, broad, okay. You would think that's obvious, but not everyone will always get that.
Do they also call it lance leaf?
Lance leaf, sometimes they'll call it English plantain. Oh. Interesting tidbit, if you want to like raise butterflies, plantain is like the ultimate all-purpose caterpillar food. Pretty much any caterpillar will eat plantain. So in a pinch, you want to feed your caterpillar something, you've got plantain to use for that if you don't know what else they're going to eat. You see they have these prominent veins. The narrowleaf is a little bit hairier. You see little hairs on it. The broadleaf feels more like rubbery. But both of them, if you carefully, hopefully I will do this carefully, break, you can see they have these elastic veins inside of them. So I'll pass this one around here. When the narrowleaves are young and tender, they'll be a little bit more likely to have the veins tear, but oh, here we go. So you can see that they're a little bit elastic. Native Americans used to actually use these. I don't know what they threaded them on, okay? But they used to use those for stitches. So there's that practical application of plantain leaf. And I like to say that plantain is like the best wild plant to introduce people to who are new to using herbs and they want to learn about wild plants, okay? So maybe they've been using store-bought stuff and chamomile, they've been using sage and thyme and stuff like that, but now they want to get into some wild plants and they feel a little bit hesitant about it because it's just not familiar. It's a lot easier for someone who's unfamiliar with an application to use a familiar plant. So if someone's got a fever and you're like, oh, make some mint tea. They'll be like, oh, okay, mint tea, that's familiar, I know that's safe. They'll feel more comfortable with it. If you say like, make some tea out of, bone set, they're like, bone set, what's bone set? Or if you say, make some tea out of pleurisy root, what is that? That unfamiliarity will just make them feel a little bit skittish. And the reason that this is so good for people like that is because there's so many uses that you can use for this. It's totally safe that don't even apply ingesting it. So if anything bites you or stings you, you can crush up some plantain leaves until they get juicy and you rub it in and you get some plantain juice and there you go. In most people, if you do that to a mosquito bite, your mosquito bite's not going to itch the next day. Spiders, mosquito bites, ant bites, bee stings, wasp stings, hornet stings, yellow jacket stings. If we had scorpions here, it would work on scorpion stings. It actually helps with the pain and it pulls out the poison. Plantain just has some kind of drawing action which will pull out the poison. The sooner you can apply it based on when you get the bites, the better it's going to work. So like an example might be you go out for a walk in the park and you get eaten alive. If when you're coming out of the park, you can pick a bunch of plantain and rub those on the bite, that would be better than waiting until the next day to do it. It's still going to help the next day, but it would be better to kind of get it before they sort of settle in. And because if it is drawing out the venom, it works best when the venom is still close to the surface and not really absorbed into the surrounding tissue. Has anyone, should be people who have, used this yet?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I showed crushing it up, okay? If I was a little bit farther from the parking lot, downhill from the parking lot, and where everyone is coming and they get out of their car and the first thing their dog needs to do is pee, I'm more likely to pick this and chew it up, okay? It'll work a little bit better like that. It's not that it doesn't work if you crush it up. In fact, it still works very good. But if you chew it up, your saliva will actually release some of the stuff that's in there and extract it better, and then you can put it on there. So just putting it in your mouth, give it a couple chews, and then put it on. For a bad bite or a bite that's infected because someone's been scratching on it, so they get bit by a spider, they get bit by a mosquito, and they do that, and then their fingernails are dirty and it gets infected, putting a Band-Aid on it, holding the plantain over top of it will help with the infection more so than just rubbing it on a little bit. Another topical application that plantain really excels for is puncture wounds. So someone's walking and they step on something and they get a puncture wound, and that could be a nail, it could be a hawthorn thorn, it could be, I mean, pretty much anything that's pointy that goes in. So like, let's say that this here is the bottom of your foot, and you're walking around your yard barefoot, and you have honey locust or hawthorn or something, and you step on a hawthorn thorn, and all of a sudden, ooh, you got this little thorn hole in your foot, okay? Because the lips of the wound are so close together, it's gonna want to heal over on the surface like that before it's healed in here. And then what's gonna happen when that happens? It gets infected, it starts festering, pus starts building up, and then like the first day you're like, oh, this seems a lot better. And the next day, it's like, oh, it's getting kind of red. Oh, it hurts, it's swollen. Oh, it's really tender, it hurts to walk on. It's horrible to have in a shoe. And then, you know, you have this big boil-looking thing, and then it breaks open and pus comes out, and it hurts, and it's infected, and it's a total drag. If you put Plantain on that, and again, you know, keep contact, so put a Band-Aid on top so it stays in contact, it'll actually help to fight the infection, and it'll keep it open on the surface so that when it heals, it actually heals from the inside outward like that. It's really amazing. If we think about herbs having quote-unquote active ingredients, which I think is a problematic way to view herbs, okay? Plantain, just like comfrey, has allantoin in it. And allantoin is supposed to be the ingredient in comfrey which increases cell proliferation and healing, okay? But comfrey has a penchant for healing things really, really quickly. And so if you were to put comfrey on a puncture wound, it would want to heal over on the surface. And for whatever reason, Plantain does not do that. So that shows you that there is a difference. Even though they have the same active ingredient, their application is not the same. So topical applications. You can infuse the leaves of either plant, chop them up, infuse them in oil to apply the oil topically. You can use the oil to make salves. I totally think like any salve that you make that has fresh plantain oil, leaf oil in it, is going to be a good salve no matter what, because plantain is just an awesome salve ingredient. Okay, really easy to get. You could also do compresses of the tea, and you can do fresh or dried tea. Dried tea, herb teas generally extract better in water, but if you're going to use fresh leaves, which with plantain I might be inclined to do, just mince them up really fine. The finer that you can mince up fresh leaves if you're going to infuse them in water, the better they're going to extract. Is where if they're dry, they don't need to be in just really small pieces. They'll extract really well from the water because the cell walls rupture as the plant dries. You can apply tincture topically, okay? So all these different topical uses, and they're good for any kind of like infected, irritated, and inflamed injuries. They help to heal the tissue. Okay? So in the mouth, maybe you have a sore throat. You can take some plantain leaves and pick it and stick it in your mouth and give it a couple chews and put it in your cheek. And then just kind of suck on the way people chew tobacco, not the way people chew bubble gum, okay? Put it in your cheek. The juices infuse your saliva, and then every single time that you swallow, the saliva that's infused with the plantain goes over the back of your throat, and every swallow, there's this constant application of the plantain to this sore, inflamed, irritated throat. It's going to work like that on the esophagus too. So if you have irritation in the esophagus, you know, if you have reflux disease, and the acid has been irritating the tissues, or the sphincter at the top of the stomach is weak, the plantain, that every single time that you swallow your saliva, count how often you do that. You know, in a minute, you do it all the time. That perpetual application of your plantain-infused saliva is going to help with the esophagus and the sphincter at the bottom of the esophagus. It's going to help with the stomach to heal tissues if there's ulceration, okay? As it starts to get down into the small intestine, the duodenum and the small intestine, it's going to be diluted, and a lot of its action is going to be expended on the tissues before there, so it'll get weaker as it goes through the system. But it's still really helpful for healing tissues throughout the digestive tract. If you make a tea of it, okay, you get the same sort of action, but rather than being a perpetual thing, you'll get like a stronger concentration of it that you're drinking. Better to drink tea, make a big batch, and then drink it throughout the day than to think like, I'm going to have 1 cup in the morning and 1 cup in the afternoon and 1 cup at night. Because then you're drinking it throughout the day, you get a more consistent application throughout the day.
Here we have plantain towards the end of the summer, and it's looking a little dry and ratty and dried out, and these stalks are mature and they've got the seeds on them. And sometimes they bend over a little bit. This little group isn't cooperating with us, isn't bending over, but sometimes they bend over and they look like a little snake's head. So it's called snakeweed. And also it grows on compacted ground. You can't really tell here, but this is a bit of a pathway here, just a bit. And if you turn the camera up the road there, you'll see it growing in the all along where the cars drive. Occasionally, that's just a part-time road. And it grows on compacted ground, and that's one of its signatures. It is a drawing agent. It grows on compacted ground where you really gotta suck those minerals and water out of the soil. And and therefore it's a drawing agent, and therefore it draws out pus, venom, dirt out of a wound. It always has this like kind of little straw, like little fibers running out of it. And it you can just chew it up and stick it on an insect bite, a bee sting, a snake bite, that's why it's called snakeweed, tarantula bite, black widow spider, brown recluse, all those kinds of things. Brown recluse is hard to catch at first, and it causes this sort of black and blue mark turning putrid, and yarrow is a better remedy there. But acute mosquito insect bites, this is the remedy of choice. It also can be chopped up and put on an abscess or a boil. That's very beneficial there. Pulls things out, pulls dirt and pus out. Also, it's superb for abscess teeth. It's probably one area where plantain is most valuable is in the treatment of abscess teeth. Root canals that have never worked out in a healthy way. Systemic infection from an infected root. Just abscesses there in the gums. Dental surgery that's gotten infected. Dry socket. All these things will respond incredibly well. I've seen it again and again and again. Dozens, maybe probably over 100 cases. Where and it'll save you thousands of dollars and much pain and suffering if you know about it. Sometimes you just don't need dental surgery. It just cures the condition. Sometimes it just improves it enough that you don't need such catastrophic dental work. And it pulls out the pus, and it pulls out rotten flesh. The old books would say that it eats away rotten flesh and it incarnates new flesh. Kind of an odd way of putting it, but that I've seen that it'll get rid of rotten flesh, eat it away, and then incarnates new flesh, quote unquote. So it's good for pulling stuff out of the lungs, and that means pneumonia. It's good when there's infection water deep in the lungs. It'd be one of several remedies. So say Asclepias or pleurisy root, plantain, and white pine would all be good remedies for pulling infection out of deep corners of the lungs or sinuses. Okay.
We have here a little patch of plantain, Plantago major. This is the broadleaf plantain. Another folk name for it is ribwort. So you can see on the back side it has very pronounced ribs. It has nothing to do with the plantain bananas that you get in the Caribbean or at many ethnic markets. This is a plantain that has a long tradition of use. It's a native Eurasian herb, although the native people of this country quickly adapted to using it. It is a wonderful herb for poultices, and a poultice again is just simply chopping or chewing an herb up and applying it topically on a sprain or an injury. It's a very drawing herb, helping to draw toxins out of the skin. I've used it for splinters. I got stung by a bee recently, and the quickest thing I could do was remove the stinger and then apply a plantain poultice to the area. And I had no reaction at all. As a matter of fact, I felt like the bee sting was an acupuncture treatment. So plantain was called by the Indians white man's footsteps because they found that wherever the wagon trains had been, the plantain soon followed. And the Indians also observed that the little flowering seed heads, which are both contained in here, first the flowers, then the seed, look a little like a snake, which led to the belief that maybe it would be good for snake bite. And I really have used plantain for all kinds of venomous bites. Many of you have probably experienced psyllium husk before, which is a great colon cleanser. Psyllium is a relative of this plant. This is Plantago major, but psyllium is Plantago psyllium or Plantago ovata. And so you could use the seeds of plantain as a lubricating laxative simply by collecting the seeds, putting them in water and drinking that water. Also, before the days of mousse, people would put the seeds in water and let the water gel up and then use that for styling their hair. So plantain tends to often grow through the cracks in sidewalks, and herbs that grow through the cracks in sidewalks or that grow through rocks are said to be good for helping the body get rid of kidney stones or gallstones. Perhaps because the plant somehow has some intelligence to grow through very small spaces and hard areas, maybe it's helping our bodies to do the same.